All right, so today we're going to dive into Dave Ramsey's The Total Moneymaker. And this whole thing is really built on one single kind of radical idea that everything we think of as normal with money, car payments, credit card debt, student loans, is actually a trap. So let's get into the plan for how you can escape it. So the book kicks off with this really powerful concept. It says the biggest threat to your financial health isn't being in some kind of massive crisis. Nope, it's just being fine. It's that comfortable, kind of mediocre place that actually stops us from ever doing something truly great with our money. And to show you how this happens, Ramsey uses that classic boiling frog story. Think about it. A little bit of debt here, a small car payment there. We just slowly accept these things as normal. The water temperature just keeps rising, bit by bit, and before we even realize it, we're in some serious financial trouble without ever really sensing the danger along the way. So how in the world do we end up in that hot water? Well, the book argues it's because our entire culture has bought into a bunch of really powerful myths about money. And the biggest, most foundational myth of them all is this idea that debt is some kind of useful or maybe even necessary tool for success. Okay, let's start with cars. The myth tells us that leasing is this smart, sophisticated way to drive a brand new car. But the truth? Well, according to consumer advocates that the book cites, it's the single most expensive way to operate a vehicle, period. So why on earth do dealers push leases so hard? It's pretty simple. You just gotta follow the money. This data from the National Auto Dealers Association shows the average profit a dealer makes per car. For a cash sale, it's just $82. For a financed car, it jumps way up to $775. But for a lease, a massive $1,300. They push leases because that's where they make the real money. All right, but what about those 0% interest deals? I mean, that's got to be a good deal, right? Well, the book argues it's just a distraction. The real cost isn't the interest. It's the huge immediate drop in the car's value. You know, what they call depreciation. Get this. A new car that costs $28,000 loses about $17,000 of its value in just the first 4 years. Ramsey puts it this way. That's basically like driving down the highway and throwing a $100 bill out the window every single week for 4 years straight. When you think of it that way, you start to see that the interest rate isn't really the problem here. And this whole mindset doesn't just stop with cars. It goes right to the plastic that we all have in our wallets. And that brings us to the next huge cultural myth. This idea that you absolutely have to have credit to function in the modern world. We're always told you need a credit card for, well, everything. Renting a car, booking a hotel room. Ramsey's counterpoint is actually really simple. A debit card that's linked to your actual money can do all of those things. And providers like Visa, they offer the exact same zero liability fraud protections on their debit cards as they do on their credit cards. And look, the danger of buying into this whole credit myth is very, very real. According to a study from the American Bankruptcy Institute that's mentioned in the book, a staggering 69% of people filing for bankruptcy pointed to credit card debt as a reason for their filing. That convenience, it comes with a massive risk. And this myth, it even trickles down to our kids. We're told that giving a teenager a credit card is how you teach them responsibility. Ramsey uses a pretty provocative analogy to argue the exact opposite. He says, you're not teaching them responsibility, you're just teaching them to spend money they don't have. The book argues that real financial responsibility is taught with a debit card and a budget. And we can see the results of this. A truly staggering 88% of graduating college seniors already have credit card debt. I mean, they're starting their adult lives already behind, all thanks to a tool they were told was essential. So if normal is really a trap that's built on a bunch of myths, what's the way out? Well, after tearing down that old way of thinking, the book lays out a really clear step-by-step path to get to financial freedom. But first things first, it says you need to have the right mindset. Ramsey calls this gazelle intensity. Just picture a gazelle being chased by a cheetah. It's not just jogging, right? It is running for its life. That's the level of focus and energy he says you need to get out of debt. The plan itself is broken into what he calls baby steps, and we're just going to touch on the first two crucial ones. So step 1 is all about creating a small buffer for life's little emergencies. Save $1,000 and do it fast. This is your starter emergency fund, and it's designed to stop you from going deeper into debt when, a tire blows or the dishwasher breaks. Step 2 is where the real fight begins, the debt snowball. Now, the debt snowball is famously a little counterintuitive. You don't focus on the highest interest rate, you focus on the smallest balance.
The whole goal isn't mathematical perfection. It's all about changing your behavior. It's designed to give you some quick wins that keep you motivated and in the fight.
So here's how it works in real life. You list out all your debts, smallest to largest, and you ignore the interest rates for a minute. Then you attack that smallest debt with every extra dollar you can possibly find until it's gone. Boom! You've got a win. Next, you take that entire payment you were making on that now paid off debt and you roll it on to the next smallest one. Your payment snowball just gets bigger and bigger, and it picks up speed as it rolls downhill, knocking out each debt and building some incredible momentum.
This whole process, debunking the myths, attacking debt with intensity, following the steps, it's all wrapped up in one final, really powerful philosophy.
And this quote right here, it's pretty much the central promise of the whole program. It's a challenge, really, to make short-term sacrifices that normal people just aren't willing to make. It's about saying no to stuff now, about being a little weird for a while, so that later you can have a level of financial peace and freedom that normal people will probably never know. And that really brings us to the final question the book leaves us with. It asks you to look at our culture of debt and payments and financial stress, and then decide for yourself. If what we call normal is actually just broke and stressed out, are you willing to be weird to get a different result?